Hey there, are you interested in getting into 3D animation and modeling? You just downloaded Blender, but you don't know how to use it or where everything's at that you want to do? Well, good news for you, because in this video we're going to cover some of the basics of Blender, all the tools that I use to create all my 3D projects. Welcome to the Digital Paul Workshop. It is I, the hidden vertice that turns your seamless project into a puzzle of frustration, Techno Meow Tinkerer. Now when you first get into Blender, you'll be greeted with your standard default. You have your camera, your light source, and the cube. And depending upon what you're going to do, is whether you keep everything or not. You can just click and drag and select everything, or you can just hit Shift A. Well, not Shift A. You just hit regular A. Shift A is something totally different. And so, just select if you want to delete the stuff. So we'll just delete everything for right now. Get that out the way. Hit the delete key. Now, right up here on this right is your global tracking. You can click on. Sometimes just click on the axis you want, and it'll automatically turn, or you can control it. You can kind of do it with the number pad as well. For instance, you got one which is the camera view. Let me make sure I'm right here. So that's the camera view. I have used that on occasion, but I don't use it too much. 3 is whatever view selected is. I don't know if that's because of that. I don't use the number key that much because it requires me taking my hand off the mouse, and so it's easier for me to go up here and use this. And of course, you got your 7 is your front, your 9 is your back, and the reason why I'm kind of jumping around like that is because those do the same thing as clicking on this right here. So if I hit 7, it moves it to the front. If I click 9, it moves it to the back. Matter of fact, if you just keep clicking 9, it switches between the two. Don't do it for this. Don't do it for the 7, just for the 9. And the reason why I'm doing it that way is because the other four, other 4 numbers, I should say, I leave 5 out, actually just slightly tilt. So if I hit 2, you can see it tilts me down some. If I hit 8, it brings me up. Same thing with if I hit 4, I go to the left. 6, I go to the right. And so that's the reason why like I said, most of the time I got my hand on the mouse, I'm trying to work. It's too much wasted time for me to keep having to move my hand to the numerical pad. And so, I mean, you could probably do it the same thing. No, the top keys don't do it, so I can't even use my left hand for that sort of stuff. And so now we just want to bring an object right on in. I just hit Shift A. You got all these to choose from. I have not used many of these. Most of the ones I tend to use the mesh. Once in a while I may end up just needing a plane. Most time I just stick with a cube or a UV sphere, which is just to bring a sphere in. A cylinder, once in a while a cone. I really haven't do the icosphere or just a circle, because usually I'm already wanting it to have a depth to it, not just a width and a height. I have used the curve on occasion. I have not mastered yet. I did use it for my tail. See my tail behind me? I did use it to help in making of that. I have not used any of these. I've got to get into learning some of the ladders. I've seen some interesting stuff. I have used the empty a time or two. If you watch my video on the time lapse of making the Autobot theme room, the 4th video, I think it is the 3rd or 4th, whichever one I made Blaster in, that I had to use the empties for the EQ part. I think I had to use it someplace else. Image, I'm going to go ahead and get this right here, the image we're going to need, because I'm going to put in an image in the background. And so first things first, I'm actually get to this. Let me grab my address to speed this thing up so I don't have to go hunting. So Shift A, I'm going to do a reference image, paste my address up here to where I want to get the image from. And if you watch my video on time lapse of making first day, this is at Wrong button. T hides your toolbar and it brings it back out. And that's the only thing about the T. I keep forgetting because I want to say it's Krita. T is your transform tool. And here it is basically the hide the toolbar or bring the toolbar out tool. Preferably, I wish this was not over myself. I kind of wish it was like in Krita, it was off to the side a little bit instead of hiding, instead of covering part of the canvas. Other is your cursor. Now the cursor is this little thing right here. Oops. Let me see. There you go. Wherever you click and you can drag it around. And wherever you put this cursor is where any new items going to appear. Now if you've watched some of my videos, I do use it when I'm trying to line up by using the size tool, and it is affected by your origin point controls here. I think it's got a name. It's called transform. It's just the transform pivot point. I want the 3D cursor, so a lot of times I use that. Yes, transform pivot point. That's what it's called, that tool. And I'll use that if I'm wanting to move stuff around. You do have your move tool, and of course it's depending upon where the cursor at sometimes is how things going to be. I don't really use these that much. This one's to rotate. Same thing, this one's the size. Most time I'm usually stick here on the select tool, and then you got these other ones which they kind of get annoying in my way, because when I want to come click this, if I click on this and hold it too long, it opens up that, and I'm not wanting to select one of those others. But yeah, you can just sit here and some of your basic command keys that does the same thing. Like this is the move tool, and so I can kind of move it up and down, left and right. And of course, if we're at a oops, come on, get it thing. We're at this, you can see it moves there. Now if I was to probably move, let me see if I move that, it puts it to the origin. So this also plays a part where some of your controls are at, depending upon which one of these you got selected. And so I can see I can move it around freely unless I grab this. Let me move you back to kind of where you were. Now for me, most of the time I usually have this, and it's just quicker for me to hit G for grab, and then whatever axis, I hit Z for Z. Z as in Z for the height Z axis, where I go up and down. You got your Y for yes. I say GY for yes, where I can slide along that axis back and forth across there. Or if I hit GX, I can go forward and backward. So depending upon what I want to do. Same thing if you want to size it or scale it, which I think it's called, this one, scale. You can click this and you can kind of scale, and let's get the scale. I don't want to rotate. And this will let you scale. Now it's not going to do nothing as far as that, but you can see it can stretch it. Now most of the time, if you grab the circle here, it's going to enlarge the entire thing. Now for me, I'm back on here. I usually hit S, and I'll do this unless I hit whatever axis. Like if I hit Y, you can see it brings it along the Y axis only, or if I hit Z, you'll bring it only on the Z axis. Hit escape. So that's basically why for me it's quicker to use the keyboard with my left hand and keep having to go over here and select these things. Of course, you do have your rotate, same thing, whichever of these colors you grab is whatever axis it will rotate on. Unless you grab the white, then it will rotate on all of them. This one I probably need to start using more when I'm wanting to rotate something at this, when I'm at an angle like this, instead of having to constantly do this, because if you do this, you have to do this and hit R to rotate if you want to rotate it a certain way. Now one thing about doing it this way, if I hit R and I hit a number, as you can see, kinda is it rotates it, and like I hit 90, so it rotated 90 degrees. But if I'm this way and I hit R and I try to rotate, it's going to rotate it on all the different axes. You can see how it's warped like that. And so not really wanting to do that type of stuff. Now we want to get in here. Let me do some other stuff right real quick. For instance, there is one thing I can do, and I'm going to hit let's see, right click, yeah. You can do copy object or duplicate object. Now if you do a copy, you will have to hit paste if you want to do that. But now if you do duplicate object, it'll automatically make the copy for you. I'm going to leave you on the y-axis. And there's a couple other things you can do. You can do a mirror if you need to move stuff around. So like if you want to flip it on the glove, well, you didn't probably see nothing with the X. But like if I did Y, you see how it flipped that? Same thing, mirror. And it can be either one. It don't have to be just the one you copy. So either one. I can see it both flip Y. Mirror. And you got your global. Now these, sometimes it depends upon, well, let me undo that. If I do it this way, if I remember correctly, if I do it this way, if I hit global, yeah, it'll flip it on the cursor there. So you gotta remember, wherever this thing set is where you got, so where I had it originally, where it was just on the individual origin, and I hit mirror, it just flips it based on where that little origin point, that little orange dot right there is where it's needed. Now in this case I am going to want to rotate it, so let's see, rotate, let's see, hit R, nope, I need to do a negative 90 degrees. And so I can bring that here, so I'm going to bring this up, grab Y, bring it closer to here, grab X, slide it over here. And so now I kind of got my area set up for if I want to recreate this ambulance, the Nissan. I am going to end up using this this to create Ratchet because he has the same body type. Him and Ironhide has the same as First Aid. So, and this is such a good. This is better than the files I got of them. So I'll probably be using these. Now let's go ahead and actually create. Let me move my origin. If I hold my Shift key and I hit my right key, I can move my cursor there instead of having to sit here and grab this. And for me, key commands, especially anything I can easily get to my right hand, is my left hand. It makes things go a whole lot faster. So I'm gonna hit Shift A. I'm gonna come up to Mesh, and I'll hit Cube. And let's see, I'm gonna grab Z, bring this on up. And so now that we got in the cube, we're just going to quickly, you can either click here and hit edit mode, or you can hit the tab key and it brings you on in, and it brings all these other controls. You get these same ones you had there, but these others are more, or I like having my kind of like this, and I need to find out how to go in and actually default this control to stay this way. But as again, you have your, you got your, where you can select the individual vertex. That's these little dots here for each of the area. Align, joins, and creates a panel. You have your edge tool. I said line and edge. This is where it lets you select a certain edge. And then your, is it face tool? Yeah, face select mode, where you can select whichever face you want. And this plays a part in what effect you want to do, where sometimes if you want, say like if I want just two edges to join together, I'll just select this one and this one. I'll hit M for merge, and I can do center, cursor, collapse first. A lot of times I end up having to do last because of what I'm working on, but sometimes I end up doing center if I want, like if I'm trying to create a pyramid or something. And you can also do it, I can actually select all of these and then hit merge and center, and I have me a pyramid. And also certain of these features, especially when you get down here, such as the bevel, you kind of sometimes you will just want, if you just want certain edges, you want to use the edge tool and not the vertex, because you see I just click the vertex, it selected a whole face. So now when I go to do this number, you see it's doing all the sides, and if I don't want that, I want just the edge, I need to select the edge tool and get off of there. So if I want to just select, just do these two edges and then the bevel and do this, and there I can now have my barn that I wanted. Now I didn't really want a barn, but that's just to prove a point. You do have your extrude tool, and I do go kind of more in depth for some of these with some other videos I have. And the extrude tool, I usually use the face a lot of times because it's what I have to extrude, not the. I mean, you can extrude the edge, and once in a while I may have to do that. I've never really had to extrude a vertice. Most of the time it's just the face, like if I need to extrude a face tool, and it gives you this little um, arrow thing to grab. Now, if you hit undo, it's still the extrude. So, well, no. Sometimes, for me, sometimes like if I hit the undo and I hit G for grab, it'll still so extrude. So for this time, and I still will always do that sometimes when I hit Z, because if I hit this and I go to undo to redo it, and sometimes it's got another extrude thing there, so I'll sometimes just go ahead and hit G and escape to ungrab it, and so I don't move it. So that's another thing you can do if you get into where, like, when you want to move something and you don't like it. A lot of times, well, at least with the grab or the size tool, like if I sit here at size and I hit escape, it takes you out that feature. And of course, now you got your insert faces. This is if you really want to, and I've used this many times, especially if I want to create something. I'll do insert face. This is good. I've used this for creating. I've used it for creating arms on the Autobots, but I've seen some people use it to create windows, doors, and stuff. It's one way. Boolean is your friend when you start working with a lot more complex shapes, especially if you do windows. And it's your friend. And of course, we got our edge select tool here, which is basically where if you want to add more edges, which means it's adding more vertices, more panels. And this, it may depend, like if I only want this to be extruded here, and then I want to come back here and select this one and extrude that even more. And this one I may want to just bring down, which you really don't want to do it that way. There's actually a specific extrude tool for doing that right there. And so check out my video as I go into the extrudes a little bit more detail. I got one on that. But let's see what else we got. Knife tool. Knife tool I sometimes use especially if I want to connect two edges like that, because I don't like. Nope. You don't. It's hit this, and you got to hit enter to do it. I do that. I don't really care too much unless I really have to add an edge like that. I really don't like doing that, but sometimes I may need to for certain. Well, come on. There we go. If I'm trying to do certain shapes, I need to bring, make sure I got these, because I'm thinking Blender's the same way as Lightwave. I used to use Lightwave, and you usually don't want nothing no more than 4 edges or 4 vertices to a shape. 3 is okay a lot of times, because especially when you start getting to doing curves, 3s tend to help out better than 4s, but you don't want 5, and I think Blender is the same way, although I'm not 100% sure on that. But it's really, for me, it's been trying to keep things kind of safe and simple. I've really never done poly build or spin or any of these down here, so I haven't used that much. And now there's some other stuff I have used up here for certain things. I kind of go in detail in some other videos. I'm trying to think, is there probably anything else I need to discuss as far as the basic? Let me tab out of here. I'm trying to think, is there anything else as far as just the basic intro to Blender? Because like I said, I can sit here and set my cursor with a shift right click, and then I can hit shift A, bring in a cube, size the cube down. Oh, now there is one thing I probably ought to mention. See the globe? I don't think it's the globe. It's one of these. I actually have to kind of look because I keep forgetting about it sometimes. Right here. This one is called Scene. Looks like a cone with, I guess, a spyglass or some sort of little power button. Units right here. This is where you can change it from your metric to your imperial. And so depending on what you're working with, sometimes the information I get, like the size of these vehicles here, I get a lot of times that sometimes I'll find them in metric and sometimes I'll find them empirical. So if I need to make, say like this, a certain size, I want it maybe imperial. And then hit the N key. Let me actually hit the tab and go back into edit. And one of these, like I keep having to forget, yeah, right here. I want to say one of these affects the actual size of some of this stuff. Let me grab this and move it here. So, that's actually moving the cursor. I don't want to move the cursor. I want to. Oh, I thought it was there. The view. Maybe it's this one here. There was a way at one time where you can kind of go in. Maybe I have to hit the S for size. Now, if I hit S for size and edit thing, you can see it brings this up down here, so you can kind of control. But there was a spot where I thought I could go in to, I could type in where the size of stuff I want. And for some reason, it's moving my cursor around. I don't want it to move my cursor. I don't know why it's moving my cursor for. Because it shouldn't be moving my cursor. It should just be moving. If I go here and I type this, let's see, 10. That's still moving the cursor. Oh, it says 3D cursor. It's not what I want. I don't want the 3D cursor. Okay, there's the item. There's the one I want. I want the item. Yeah, where I can kind of go in and add the actual numbers that I want. So that's how you can kind of go in and see. Like right now, I'm working with the Imperial. If I go back to metrics, you can do things in metrics. So this is how, if you need to make a thing a certain size and you need to go, you go to this little thing called the scene properties, and you'll come down here to units, and you can select between Imperial, which is what the US uses, and metric. And you can kind of go in with the dimensions under here where it says, you hit the N key to bring up this menu. I think you can also hit, it's a little, yeah, that little arrow thing. I don't know how you can close it, but other than the N key. And this can bring up where your dimensions, if you need to type in a specific size you need your object to be. So hide that away. Some of this other stuff is like your rendering properties. This is where you do your rendering engines. I don't know what Workbench is. You have either EV or cycles I use. EV is usually fast, but there are certain scenes where, especially in lighting comes, I've had to use cycles, and you have to sit here like the max sample threshold. For my backgrounds and stuff, like I created for my new background and everything, I dropped this down to something like 400. And same thing like this one, just drop it, click on it, drop it down. That way it don't take so long, because cycles is longer. I think it's supposed to produce better quality than EV. I don't know, but for me to do a scene, just a simple scene with a cycle, will probably take over a day on my unit, where EV it may take an hour or two. So depending upon what I'm doing, I may just render out in EV. I have been trying to look at ways where I can speed up, and there's a possible way you can use multiple computers, but I haven't played around with that to be sure. So if I do find out if you can use multiple computers to speed things up, be sure I will be making a video about that, because you might be in the same situation that I am. Output, I have not really had to play with this too much. Sophia, another thing, when you go to render, you'll be rendering up here at this button, render image. In the case of the image or the video, you'll sit here and click on this, and whatever your settings are for your rendering time, your engine. For instance, EV won't take long, but cycles, like I said, it will take a while. And then you let it render. Once it's rendered through, then you can save your video or image as I give of my backgrounds on out. I haven't used this output too much. A few layers. Some of these I've only had used on rare occasions for certain things. Objects, I think I might have used that on some stuff. Modifiers, now this you will end up using a lot. The little wrench there's the modifiers, and like I said, the Boolean tool is your friend. It has become a very good friend of mine. There's a few of these I have used. I kind of get into the Boolean in its own video, and I'll probably be doing some videos on some of this other stuff. The hook is what I think you need. Best, I think. Let me go back here to thing empty. Yeah, I think the hook works with the. I had to use the hook with the empty when I did the EQ. I don't know what this is. I've not used it. The physics, I'm not 1% sure. But oh yeah, there was something else I wanted to say. I'm trying to remember where it's at. I think it's the world. Yeah. The background, this is where you got a certain effects and stuff that goes on. And I think you can actually set your color back here. I'm not 100% sure if it's the one I'm thinking. At least I thought you could. Strength. I know if I sit here and I can select like emissions, just like if I want to give it like a sunny glow, I believe. But for some reason it looks like it wants to do nothing with me. Remove. Surface none. I don't know. I don't even know what it controls for background. But I've had to use this before. I'm trying to remember how to work it. Now, one of the ones you're going to use a lot is this one down here called the materials. This is where you add color to your objects. And so like I sit here and add a color. Now you don't see it here. And let me make sure there's any other one I don't want to do. Some of these other ones I have not played with. But now up here you got these different controls here. And this one lets you kind of x-ray in. And you got this one, let's say x-ray in. What is this one called? This is called viewport shading. I don't know what the difference between these two viewport shadings are. This one says method to display shade object in 3D view, wireframe. This one is display shade objects in 3D view, solid display. So I guess one's supposed to be wire and one's supposed to be solid. Speaking of wire, I do like to come in here on this little down arrow right here beside this one, where it's called show overlays. And a lot of times I'll turn the wireframe on, and also I'll turn the face orientation on a lot of times. Face orientation will let you know if your object is facing outwards like you want, or in the case if I hit tab and I accidentally hit delete face, because if you don't have it on, you may not spot. As you can see, you might spot it, but if you got a lot of stuff going on, you may not spot that that's missing. And so come back over here. Face orientation on lets you see that that's there. That's missing. So that's very helpful. You have this right here, which is viewport shading. Now this shows the color, and I got to take off the face orientation. So now you're starting to see the color I've added to this. So if I come over here and I change it around on the material, you can see I changed the color. This right here kind of gives you, especially when you start getting in your lighting, give you a bit more about what you're going to see as the final project. This one's called the viewport shading. All these are viewport shading, but this one just shows you the material in the 3D viewer. This one shows you what the rendering of it's going to be. So you got your wire mesh, your solid shape, your material, and your rendering. And because as you can see how this creates this little, I don't know if you can see real well, this little spots. It can be, when you start getting a lot more stuff, it can really start bogging the system down with the render view. So sometimes you just want to be in the material shade view. I'm trying to think, is there anything else I may want to cover? Just getting started. But for the most part, that's most of your tools just to get started. To create an object, to give it some color, a few features like trying to figure out your measurements and stuff about where you want to go. How do you preview it? How you navigate around, and basically how you kind of export as a render image. Let me see. I want to try something. Let me make sure I'm on EV because, oh yeah, get off of cycles because that's going to take probably a while. I'll probably drop this down to 5. I think that's what I drop this down to 5 too because that's just rendering samples. Let's see, that speeds up. So if I render image, well, for one, I need to put a camera. So I go back, add to my object mode, Shift A, and come down here to camera. I do need a camera, or it won't work. So grab, pull you back. I'm not going to. You can do the same thing with the camera as everything else as far as the controls, like G for grab, R for rotate, and how did I get upside down, and so forth. So like I said earlier, 1 is the camera view, I think. That's supposed to be, no, 0. For me, 0 is the camera view. 1 is something else. So apparently on mine it's a bit different. Kind of give you the view. So now when I come to render, there we go. Now we're rendering out. Boy, I am off. Let me close that out right quick. Let's see. Oh yeah, another thing is you can kind of grab down here. The default of this is sort of the video player, I guess, or playback, where if you're doing animation, you can come over here and you can kind of change this. So I'm going to change this to the 3D viewport, and I'm going to hit 0 to give me my camera view so I can kind of see what I'm doing here. So I need to rotate my camera. Whoops. Z, rotate. I said Z. Okay, X. You're just going to be a nuisance, aren't you? Let's get up here. Kind of get you as you move around. Grab Z. There we go. Kind of get it a little bit up like that. I really probably need to hit R for rotate, but that's going to have to do for right now. Just to see so what we're dealing with. So I'm going to render image. Of course, it ain't showing the reference images, and I have no light. That's one reason why it's so dark. And then, yeah, it didn't take long. It took only 32 seconds. So I just come to image and then save as, and I can now save it as image file. And that's kind of how I did my background. For my new background, as I saved everything as an image file after creating it in Blender. There's a few other things, like you can come over here and supposed to be able to grab like an edge. And there you go. So now you can create multiple windows. The problem is I have with this is, one, sometimes grabbing the edge, but also if I want to get rid of it. Like, how do I get rid of it? It's like it's not no easy solution. At least not for me. I haven't found. I know I've seen some people do it, but it just doesn't want to work for me like that. So don't care too much. I usually just stick to manipulating this one down here for what I need. Because you're supposed to be able to go to any corner, and like right there. See, I grab. So now I got 4. There's actually supposed to be something up here for doing that too. Windows. I've seen some stuff I need to get delve into, and there are going to probably be videos as well. Like I said, I don't know how to get rid of them once you get them up there. You're supposed to be able to click some way and drag, and I just have not. Oh, I think I saw something. Okay, that just did something even way wackier. So yeah, you can see I'm just getting all chaotic here. Nope, file, new, general. Don't need to save nothing. Nothing I did was important. So, like I said, I usually just stick to doing this down here. And I go into some of this other stuff in a little bit more detail in my other videos. But this is basically a run through of getting started with some of the basic controls you may find useful and helpful when getting started with Blender. And this just has been just a basic introduction to Blender, or basically where all of the major tools are used, at least the ones that I find that I have to use the most. This is where they're at and how to get to them and do some things. I do go in more detail in some of my other videos especially my tutorials on Blender on some of these things, and I will be producing even more detailed on future things you can do in Blender. And if you like my content, you can go to these websites right here to support me in different ways, as well as like, subscribe, and share this video with anyone you think might find it interesting. And if you are looking to do some more 3D model creation in Blender, you can always check out my tutorial list, or you can go right on ahead and click this video and check out the Blender basics of joining and separating. Have a nice day.